تشکر میکنم که لطف کردید و آمدید اینجا و موضوع حقوق بشر ایران براتون مهم بود. حکومت اسلامی در ایران 30 سال از عمرش میگذره و در این 30 سال نزدیک به 30 بار در سازمان ملل متحد به خاطر نقض
Approximately 30 times the United Nations condemned the violations of human rights in Iran. Every year, the human rights situation, international organizations such as Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch are condemning Iran for violations. But what happened in Iran was something special. After the elections, we saw that there was a little bit too fast for me. It was a wave of protests due to the obvious and flagrant violations of human rights. Not all of them have been described. In the laws of the Islamic Republic, there is a law about the minimum rights for the voters and also rights for the candidates. In the last elections, none of those rights were respected. Even the possibility of appealing such decisions was also closed. Because the courts, as well as the police, and legal instances for making an appeal were all in the hands of the government. So it was impossible to complain to the government about the government. On the other hand, the announcement of the results of the election is also described in a special law on the proceedings of the elections, and this was also not respected. So the specialists called this election not elections, but rather a coup. People immediately after these elections poured into the streets. There were mass protests, students, workers. In fact, all social strata were represented. Initially, the government first closed its space for no news, so that the news about what was happening in Iran would not be reaching the outside world. For instance, SMSs were closed down. Every day in Iran, 100 million SMSs are sent. And these were totally banned for a number of days. The same thing also happened for the possibility of using mobile phones. Then they slowed down the internet speed to a trickle. Lots of websites were being heavily filtered. Other websites were attacked by hackers so that people could not access those websites. The Human Rights Association to which I belong and of which I am a spokesman, the movement of the human rights of Iran, activists in Iran, says that the latest occurrence have to be documented, and in fact I have this documentation in the form of photographs, slides, video clips, shots, and documentary evidence of what was happening after the elections.
در این گزارش آمار دقیقی از نشریات مثل روزنامه‌ها و کتاب‌هایی که در این
We have the statistics about the newspapers and magazines, the printed press that was banned.
آخرین آمار دستگیر شده‌ها.
The latest statistics about those detained.
وجود داره که من اینجا نمیتونم به صورت جزئیات براتون
Of course, I will not go into details here now, but if it is such your wish, I can put this at your disposal later.
در این گزارش آمده که
In this report, it is clear that the government, immediately after the elections,
به 17 خوابگاه دانشجویی در شهرهای مختلف
attacked 17 student entities in various cities of Iran.
دانشجوها رو کشته و زخمی کرد.
The students were being killed or wounded.
بزرگترین حادثه بعد از
The
انتخابات
greatest event after the elections
این بود
and
که
the violation of human rights
در یک حرکت
was that the government, in a concerted manner, ordered that all political activists be detained, but also those who were defending human rights, or editors of newspapers, or journalists, and even people who were against this, people who were in the past in the government and serving the government. For instance, Mohammad Ali Aftahi was the counselor to the president of Iran, former president of Iran, Mr. Khatami. Abdullah Ramazanzadeh was the minister in the previous government.
Muhammad
Akhtiarfar was a member.
و خیلی از رفرمیستای بزرگ
As a major reformist,
شناخته شده.
is well known, but many others were also well known.
همچنین بسیاری از روزنامه‌نگاران و استادان دانشگاه خیلی
But
مطرح
also professors and journalists,
مثل احمد
such
زیدآبادی،
as Ahmed Batebi,
مثل محمد ملکی،
Mohammad Maliki, Masood Bastani,
مهسا باستانی.
Mahsa Bastani.
حاکمیت بعد از دستگیری اینها را مدت‌ها در سلول انفرادی نگه داشت.
After detaining them, they were kept in solitary confinement for a long period of time. They were tortured
و مجبورشون کرد که در یک
and
دادگاه
forced them
نمایشی حاضر بشن در
to
تلویزیون.
produce a show trial for television.
و اعتراف بکنن که
And at
اشتباه
the show
کردن.
trial, they had to confess that they made a mistake,
نظرشون
and
در
in
مورد
fact,
تقلب در انتخابات
the
اشتباه
elections
بوده.
were not fraudulent, but they were fair and free.
و اونها تحت تاثیر دولت‌های خارجی این کار کردن.
And that, in fact, when they were alleging that there was fraud in the elections, they did so at the behest of foreign powers.
در صورتی که همه این حرفا
Whereas
بوده.
all of that, of course, are lies.
من 31 سال سن دارم و نزدیک
I'm
به 10 سال
31.
عمرم رو در زندان
About 10
جمهوری
years I spent in the prisons of the Republic of
من
Iran.
میدونم در زندان جمهوری اسلامی
know
چطور آدم‌ها رو تحت فشار قرار میدن.
How prisoners in the prisons are set under pressure, how they are being tortured,
و چطور وادارشون میکنن که
and
خودشون
how
رو
they
انکار
are
بکنن
forced
و حرفایی که نکردن، کاری که نکردن اعتراف
convict
بکنن.
themselves of something that they have never done, to confess
اگر
to
مایل
the
باشید میتونم بیشتر در مورد این
crimes
تجربیاتم
that they
بهتون
did not
توضیح بدم
commit.
تا
If
متوجه
you wish, I
بشید
can go into greater detail
چه اتفاقی برای این
so
دستگیر
that you
شده.
know what exactly the type of pressure that is
جدا
being
از
brought
دستگیری
on
آدم‌های
the
شناخته شده
detainees.
صدها هزار نفر
Apart from
از
these
شهروندان
well-known
عادی دستگیر
personalities,
شدند.
hundreds of less well-known people were also arrested and
و
tortured.
اتفاقاتی که برای اونها افتاده غیر قابل
What happened to them is hardly believable.
یکی از اون اتفاقات
One of
بعد
them
تجاوز به زندانی هست.
Was in fact the rape of the detainees. It's a
بسیاری از قربانیانی که از زندان بیرون آمدن
lots
در
of
مورد
many
تجربیات خودشون
who
صحبت
were
کردن.
there detained and then later released did speak out about this rape.
خیلی از
of which they were the
کاندیداهای
victims.
ریاست جمهوری که انتخاب نشدن
And many of the candidates who were not elected in the last election, such as Mr. Mehdi Karoubi
مثل آقای
or
موسوی
Mr. Musavi,
هر روز دنبال میکنن
daily
پیگیری میکنن
write letters asking for investigation in order to find out who was raping these detainees.
برای این تجاوزها ما اسناد مدارک خیلی زیادی
We
داریم.
have lots of proof of such rape,
ولی شما میتونید حتی به روزنامه
but you may
گاردین و
also
روزنامه
look
تایمز مراجعه
at
بکنید
the
که
news
گزارش‌های
archives
و
of
مصاحبه‌هایی
Times
با قربانیانی
and
که بهشون تجاوز شده
Guardian
انجام دادن و منتشر کردن.
who have also published the what the victims of the rape were telling the journalists of these two publications.
حکومت ایران